Hi everyone, welcome to the Love Safety Net.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Steve, and welcome back everybody. We're today podcasting about Kim's most recent article, which has just been posted, and we're really excited about talking through all 12 points in the article. Today we'll just be discussing the first point, and we'll get to that in a moment. But before we move ahead, at the moment in Australia it's cold, but in the world it's red hot with uncertainty. There's never been a more important time, Kim, for us to be talking about how we build peaceful and sane and safe communities, particularly families. Well, a community starts with a sane and safe and peaceful family, right?
I think that is extremely important at the moment. There's so much fear, there's so much uncertainty, there's so much change going on and calls for change. People are questioning the structures of our government, the structures of, well, just about everything.
So, Kim, the article we'll be discussing today is titled Staying Sane in a Narcissistic and Codependent World. And the article has 12 very solid suggestions, and we'll be doing a podcast on each of them. We said we're going to attempt to. I wanted to start with the first one, Kim. Point number one is stop waiting for a hero to save you. So as we alluded to in the introduction, we cannot afford for a hero to save us, correct? Yep. I'll just read the first line, Kim, and then I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So from the article, so Kim's grandmother was born in 1883 and lived out her entire adult life expecting Jesus to return in her lifetime. Kim's father, born in 1919, did the same. If you believe we're living in end times now, because of the strife and turmoil the world is experiencing, consider that both my grandmother and my father lived through 2 world wars. So, that's how we're introducing the concept of stop waiting for a hero to save you, Kim. I just want to know how this example of your father and grandmother relates to the topic of waiting for a hero to save you.
I don't want to challenge people's religious beliefs here. It's just that we also have to look at our own experience of life. And if I look back and I see that, I really have to question people who will defer responsibility about things in their life that really do need to be addressed, particularly issues of inequality, and say, well, it's end times, Jesus will be coming soon. I have a bit of a funny saying about that, which is, if he doesn't come soon, who's going to clean up the mess? And my grandmother lived through some very difficult times. She lost her husband when my father was only 6 months old. That was at the time of the Spanish flu pandemic that people are talking about now, and he actually contracted pneumonia. And my grandmother used hot and cold fermentations and saved him, even though he had an older brother who'd actually died of pneumonia previously. So she was not only widowed, but she also had a critically ill child. Right. She had 2 other children to look after. It's very easy to look at the turmoil, the distress that people are facing in the world and say, well, this has been prophesied as end times. It's not just about religion. People are looking for political saviors.
Sure.
I think we have too much faith in democracy.
Yeah, I think it's really important we talk about that, Kim, because we have this general understanding that democracy is this level of perfection, or it's an end of tyranny or something, that it has some inherent nature that is benevolent. But democracy has a lot of downsides as well. So should we talk about them?
Yeah, I'd like to. It's a dangerous thing to question, I guess, democracy, because it's been put on such a pedestal. But there's also a saying that democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep deciding what they're going to have for dinner. It also can be seen as majority rules.
Or mob rules.
And then if you continue down that path and you leave minorities disenfranchised, well, then you end up with a lot of the problems that the world is facing right now, because eventually the hens are going to come home to roost, as they say. So what kind of system do we want in place? I mean, families can't run on democracy.
Well, that's right.
You say in your family you had 5 girls and 1 boy. Can you run that as a democracy? Everyone's needs in a family have to be considered. And that kind of consensus takes time. And it takes building trust, and it takes a commitment to leadership that we often find really absent now and is not being promoted, because the advertisers are promoting you to, you know, get the PhD, buy the latest car, and spend your money worrying about your wrinkles and your makeup. The advertisers are not talking to you about being a better leader in your family and the resources and the skills and the time that it takes to do that. We all understand that running a corporation or a business takes leadership, and it takes time, ongoing. You're not going to be an effective leader and just do one course and then you're good at it. It's something that you need to be working on improving all the time if you want the members of whatever organization it is that you're a leader in to be effective and happy and be growing and working together.
Well, I just wanted to jump in here, Kim, and say that Kim and I just don't talk about this stuff. Kim actually writes about this. We do have resources, books, e-books. You can purchase them as printed or e-books that will help you establish some of these new processes that Kim's talking about now in your families. I think that's really important. And it's not easy to create a system where everybody's included, but we do actually have those resources for you if you haven't already read them.
In our Good Fathers and Mothers program, which is in our members area, just start where you need to start. Maybe that's with Back from the Looking Glass. Maybe you're living with somebody who's very resistant to working together with you, who's just very self-interested and exploitative and doesn't really want to cooperate. Well, there's still a lot of things that you can do yourself to at least be a good role model and also be helping to start putting a better structure in place, because these things take time and they take commitment. But where are you going to be in 5 or 10 years otherwise? I'm seeing that as I'm getting older now. It's just frightening. The biggest demographic of homeless people in Australia now is women over 50. And I think that's just absolutely horrifying. There's older women who have spent their lives raising children, doing most of the unpaid labour in their home, but by the time the children leave, they divorce their husband, they get a payout, but it's not really invested well. They don't have superannuation, and it really is a problem. That's not how I want my story to go.
No.
I'm doing something different than that.
So what you've described there, Kim, and I think it's important that we talk about this now, is that you talked about the reality of how some people, particularly women, end up being in a situation where they are a genuine victim of the society that we've created. But going back to what you were saying before that, it's important not to have a victim mentality. Obviously, once you realise you're a victim of abuse or a victim of manipulation
or exploitation,
once you've realised that you're in that position, you're at a point in the journey where you're able to get away from that victim mentality with the right tools.
Yeah.
But you can also remain in that victim mentality, but your prospects of improving the situation are diminished. Right?
Real transformational change happens in families and communities and even governments in countries when individuals find the courage to listen to their conscience, and by doing so set an example that inspires other people to find the same courage.
And I think there's a manipulative pattern that's been set in amongst our collective psyche for the last however many years, probably 100 years since the mass media has been in charge of the planet. We've got a hero, which you're suggesting we don't sit around waiting for the hero to save us. We have a victim, which is often we feel victimised, we feel like we're the victim. And then the third character in this puppet show is the villain. And so this hero, victim and villain narrative is often pushed on us throughout the media, throughout the democratic process, through politics, the political spin that always gets thrown at us, particularly in campaign years like this year. But that model will never ever work, like we were suggesting before, Kim, in a family. You can't, within a family, how can that be in any way useful for a family? If you have a victim, a villain and a hero, if you keep perpetuating that cycle, well, you're going to have a destroyed family. And unfortunately, we hear way too much about destroyed families because of that. We've got to move away from that really, really rapidly.
We need better systems of leadership in place, and the only place we really can start is in our own lives, with our own family or with the people that we live with.
Right.
Because this idea that we can just keep working towards this critical mass and enough people will vote the right person in and then the changes that we need will happen. It's not ecologically valid. It doesn't play out, and it takes too long. And you can spend your whole life working on trying to make that happen, only then to be disappointed when the person that you thought was going to rescue us gets in, and then you find out, hey, guess what? They're a politician. They're lying.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
like all the other politicians are lying. And I know that sounds really cynical, but I'm not a cynical person. I actually have a lot more hope and positivity than a lot of people. And that's a result of having taken back a lot of that responsibility onto myself. Right. And us doing that as a family is saying, no, we have to have systems that serve everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though it takes more time and takes more thought and doesn't follow a pattern that we see in the movies, it has to be the new pattern that we forge ahead with as leaders within the family. And we're speaking in the capacity now, Kim and I, as leaders of our family. We do lead our rather large family as co-captains.
This is what it looks like to be a real hero. It looks like a father going to his wife and to his children and saying, you know what, I feel really ashamed of myself and I'm really embarrassed. I have been way too focused on my own self-interests. I've been way too focused on my own career and on my own, ambitions and me time pleasures. And I really have let you down. And I realize now that I want to start working on being a better father. I want to start working on being a better husband. I want to start creating a better culture in our family that means that everybody feels that they're heard, everybody feels that their needs are important and considered, and where we all feel like we've got the security to develop and grow and reach our potential. Yeah. Or a wife or a mother going to her family and saying, or maybe just to kids if her husband's not supporting her in this, and saying, I'm really sorry that I've been so focused on your dad letting us down. Right. And I've let that make me really sad, and I've really blamed him for my unhappiness, and I know that my unhappiness is affecting you. And I want to change that. I can't control what he's doing, but I can give you more time, and I can be more responsible in my role as a mother. Yeah. And I have more time for you to really hear what you need from me, and that hopefully we can all start supporting each other better. Those kind of statements obviously take a lot of courage, but that's the hero act. Getting back to my grandmother who lost her husband and then nearly lost my father when he was only 6 months old, and still had to work, still had to get by, still had to support her family. And then she ended up marrying another widower who also had children, and she still managed to put my father through medical school. These are the real heroes.
Yeah.
We all have that moral compass. It's called our conscience.
This is quoting Kim in the article here. What is wrong with your personal world that needs a hero to set it straight?
Yeah.
And so that's the question for you, listening at home and reading at home. What is wrong with your personal world that needs a hero to set straight? That's a tough question to ask yourself, right?
Yeah.
Your life is not the warm-up act.
Once you find the courage to follow your own inner moral compass, a lot of the time you're not going to be in the same camp as the majority.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Because
sure.
unfortunately, the world that we live in now is very much a narcissistic, codependent world that really is encouraging us to just think positive and think about the big romantic sort of idea that we've got that our life should be. And meanwhile, our real life is going by, and often we're making very poor choices based on other people's ideas of how we should live our life, rather than tuning into our own conscience and really doing what's best for ourselves and what's best for our family.
And that's really the key, because we can't really change the world. We can't really change police forces, and we can't change governments, and we can't change militaries, and we can't change corporations much. But we can change our families, and it can be fun.
And you may not even realize the people that you're influencing and the example that you're setting. That, in the end, is always going to be much more powerful than politicians making promises.
Kim, you've really helped us with our family so much. Thank you so much. It's been a long journey, and all of the drama that we've had over the years hasn't deterred us from building a solid family structure, and that's what we've got now. And the article's fantastic. So we've just covered point 1. There's 12 points in there. So please stay tuned, and please keep an eye on our podcasts and our feeds. And the article, again, it'll be linked below, is called Staying Sane in a Narcissistic and Codependent World. Hope you get a chance to read it.